Well, folks, I finally did it. I finally transitioned to a mesh Wi-Fi system for my home network. Anyone that's seen my previous videos, you know that I'm a TP-Link fanatic. Just about all the equipment in my home network comes from TP-Link. So when they reached out to me and they asked if I wanted to try their new mesh Wi-Fi system, the TP-Link Deco BE5000, of course I had to take them up on it. One caveat here is that although they provided me with the product, the experiences and my opinions of the devices itself, they're mine and mine alone. With that said, in trying out a mesh Wi-Fi system for the first time, my eyes were really opened and I noticed there were a lot of benefits to using a mesh Wi-Fi system when compared to a standalone router that you see in traditional home networks. To take a look at some of these advantages of a mesh Wi-Fi network, let's dive into some of the features of the BE5000. The first and most important thing to mention when talking about these BE5000 devices is that they support the latest and greatest Wi-Fi technology. They support Wi-Fi 7, which is so new that many of the devices in your home network probably don't even support Wi-Fi 7 yet. This is not a problem, however, because if you have devices that support Wi-Fi 5 or Wi-Fi 6, they will still be compatible with these BE5000 nodes, so there's nothing to worry about there. And in fact, you're really just future-proofing your home network because eventually all the devices in your home network will support Wi-Fi 7. In fact, the International Data Corporation, they expect 2 billion Wi-Fi 7 devices to be used by 2028. Some iPhones, Samsung's latest mobile phones, they already support Wi-Fi 7. And you can only expect more laptops and mobile devices to support Wi-Fi 7 as time goes on. The reason Wi-Fi 7 technology is so great is that it implements two brand new Wi-Fi features. The first is multi-link operation, and the second being 4K QAM. We'll dive into these features a little more in depth shortly here, but just know that the key thing about these features is that they support blazing fast internet speed. It also goes without saying that with the latest and greatest Wi-Fi technology comes the strongest Wi-Fi encryption and the strongest protection for your communication between your devices and these BE5000 nodes. They support WPA3, which is the strongest encryption algorithm available, so there's no need to worry there when it comes to the security of your device's communications. On top of the technological advancements that the BE5000 devices offer, you should also know that they're super easy to set up, and this was one of the most surprising things to me when it comes to the mesh home Wi-Fi network. It's very easy to set up your initial device and then to add additional nodes to your mesh Wi-Fi network. I'll make a separate video that details exactly how to do that so you can do it without any issues. But just know, take my word for it, it's really easy to do. As a bonus, I want you to take a look at how sleek these BE5000 mesh nodes look. If you have a few of these placed throughout your home, it's a lot easier to disguise these compared to something like my old TP-Link standalone router. If you compare these two devices side by side, it goes without saying my wife is much happier that I'm implementing these devices as opposed to this device. The antennas for my old standalone router are external. The antennas for this device are internal, which is what allows it to look so sleek. But as you'll see, when it comes to Wi-Fi coverage, this has no limitations in terms of the square footage and the devices it can support. So you're really losing nothing here by having this sleek design. When it comes to routers and mesh Wi-Fi networks, the first question that everyone asks is, what are the speeds that this device can support? Well, just rest assured, as I mentioned earlier, this BE5000, these mesh devices support blazing fast internet speeds. No matter what internet plan you have, you're not going to have any performance issues when it comes to these devices. So why can the BE5000 device support such fast internet speeds? Well, it's because of those two Wi-Fi 7 features I mentioned earlier. Multi-link operation, also known as MLO. What this basically does is, in traditional home Wi-Fi networks, you have two networks. You have a 2.4G network and a 5G network, and your devices would have to pick one or the other when connecting to your router. With MLO, however, your devices can connect to both bands at the same time. So I can have a mobile phone that's connected to both the 2.4G and 5G band simultaneously. What does this allow you to do? It allows you to transfer more data between your mobile device and your router or your mesh Wi-Fi node, which leads to faster speeds. The other feature that I mentioned was 4K QAM. I'm going to keep this at a high level, but the long and short of it is that with 4K QAM, you can send more data per transmission between your device and the mesh node. To be exact, you can pack in 20% more data between your device and the mesh node every time you send a transmission. So, on top of you being able to connect to both the 2.4G and 5G band at the same time, each of these communications is carrying more data. So it goes without saying, the difference in speed between a Wi-Fi 7 capable device and, say, a Wi-Fi 5 or Wi-Fi 6 device is quite significant. In fact, with Wi-Fi 7, these BE5000 devices support speeds 5 times faster than the next earliest iteration of Wi-Fi, which is Wi-Fi 6, or 13 times faster than Wi-Fi 5. So to be specific about it, with this BE5000 device, you'll still have 2 Wi-Fi networks, the 5G and 2.4G band. The 5G Wi-Fi network can support speeds up to 5 gigabits per second, and the 2.4G network supports speeds up to 688 megabits per second. So yeah, you're not going to have any problems when it comes to speed, and these are the fastest speeds available on the market. Now I know for a lot of you this might sound like overkill, but just keep in mind that with a device that supports these speeds, you know that you can upgrade your internet plan or add more devices to your home network, and you won't need to replace any of your mesh nodes or any of your infrastructure in terms of accessing the internet. When it comes to the speed of these devices, another thing I have to mention is that each of these nodes comes with 2 Ethernet ports, each port supporting 2.5 gigabits per second of speed. So if you have a more complex home network, say you have network attached storage or you transfer files between devices frequently, you know you're not going to run into any performance issues with these BE5000 nodes. All right, we get it. So the performance of these devices is best in class. The next important question to ask is, how many mesh nodes do you need to support your home network? Well, this all will depend upon the size of your home, how many levels of your home that you have. For example, if you get one mesh device, basically you can replace your standalone router with one mesh device. This serves as your basic router. You can support 2,600 square feet of space with this Wi-Fi signal. So that's pretty significant right there, and this will most likely support the needs of a lot of you, myself included. I have a smaller apartment that I live in, so something like this is probably more than enough. If you have a larger home or you live on 3 floors, for example, you might want to get a second node. A second node will allow you to broadcast a Wi-Fi signal. 46,000 feet of coverage is what you'll get. Again, probably more than enough for a lot of you, so you'll probably either need 1 or 2 of these mesh nodes for your home to provide good Wi-Fi coverage. In extreme cases where either you live in a mansion or you have a piece of your home that you want to provide a Wi-Fi network to that's either disconnected or really far away from your main living space, I know for me, my garage is 3 floors down. In order to get a Wi-Fi network signal down there, I may need to use this third device here. But with 3 devices, you can cover 6,600 square feet, and it should be more than enough. I can't see many instances where you would need more mesh Wi-Fi devices, unless you want to make sure you have a strong Wi-Fi signal in every single inch of your home, and maybe even outside as well. But one of the best things about a mesh Wi-Fi network is maybe you start with 1 device. Start with 1 device, see if you get good Wi-Fi signal in your home. If there are some areas that maybe don't get as strong of a signal, just buy a second device, and so on and so forth until your entire home is covered with a strong Wi-Fi signal. It's also important to note that each of these nodes supports 150 devices connected to it. Many people don't have 150 connected devices in their home, so just know that you can freely add devices and you won't have any issues with bogging down one of these nodes. I have to admit, when I saw the price of these BE5000 devices, considering they offer the latest and greatest Wi-Fi technology, they allow secure communication between your devices and these nodes, and how flexible they were, I was shocked to see that 1 node only cost $100. That's probably only a little bit more than what you paid for the standalone router in your home network. I'll include a link in the description if you want to learn more about any of these options, find more information, or if you want to buy one of these mesh nodes. And also down there, you might find a little bit of a discount code as well. So if you go ahead and buy one of these BE5000 mesh nodes, you'll save some money as well. Although it took me a while to get into the mesh Wi-Fi network world, honestly, I don't know if I'll ever go back. Whether you're an IT guru or a non-technical person, the ease of use, the performance, and the cost of these devices make it really hard to go in any other direction. I'd love to see in the comments section if you're currently using a BE5000 mesh node in your home network, or if you bought one as a result of this video. I'd love to get your thoughts and see if you love them as much as I do. As always, thanks for checking out this episode from Network from Home, and we'll catch you on the next one.